Today we're going to start one of my favorite topics, which is geometry. We're going to start with measuring angles. Today we're going to begin one of my favorite topics, which is geometry. We're going to start with measuring angles. Your essential question is listed there. Pause this, take time to copy that down. Compare angle 1 and angle 2. Tell which is greater. Show how you know using only paper and pencil. If you take the two angles and line up the lower edge of both angles together, you will see that angle 1 is slightly larger than angle 2. The length of the rays have nothing to do with the angle's measure. The angle's measure simply describes the space between the rays. An angle is a figure formed by two rays that have a common endpoint. That endpoint is known as the vertex. We measure angles in what are called degrees. We're going to use a protractor that measures degrees. Find the measures of angles 1 and 2 using a protractor. We took angle 1. Your first step is to place the point of the protractor on the vertex of the angle. Step number 2, make sure that the lower side of the angle passes through the 0 point on the scale. Start measuring from 0. Step number 3, read the scale where it intersects the higher side of the angle. When you do that, you see that angle 1 measures 10 degrees. Measure 2, angle 2. Step 1, place the vertex in the opening. Step number 2, make sure that the lower side of the angle passes through 0 on the scale, and we're going to start measuring from 0. Step number 3, we read the scale where it intersects the higher side of the angle. In this case, the measure of angle 2 crosses at 160 degrees. What is the measure of angle CAB? Step number 1, we place the vertex in the opening in the middle of the protractor. Step number 2, make sure that the lower side of the angle passes through 0 on that scale. And we start measuring from 0. Step number 3, read the scale where it intersects the higher side of the angle. Angle CAB measures 104 degrees. You have already copied down all of the definitions that you need for this section on geometry. Included in those are the 4 words that you see in front of you. Straight angle measures 180 degrees, it's a straight line. Obtuse angle is between 90 and 180 degrees. A right angle is a solid 90-degree angle. An acute angle is something between 0 and 90. These are very, very important terms in geometry. Classify the following angles as acute, right, obtuse, or straight. So pause this, we'll come back and we'll see how you did. All right, hopefully you have right angle for the first one, obtuse for the second, acute for the third, obtuse for the fourth, acute for the fifth, and this last one is a straight line, so it is a straight angle. Can the sum of the measures of two acute angles be greater than the measure of a straight angle? Explain. An acute angle is smaller than a right angle. The measure of an acute angle is less than 90 degrees. The sum of the measure of two acute angles is therefore less than 180 degrees. The measure of a straight angle is 180 degrees. So the answer to that question is no. The sum of the measures of two acute angles can never be greater than 180 degrees, or the measure of a straight angle. The measure of angle 1 is equal to 3x minus 15. Find the value of x. Look at the angle, you'll see that it's a right angle, 90 degrees. We solve the equation, 3x minus 15 equals 90. We solve that for x. We get x equals 35. The measure of angle ABC is 60 degrees. Find the value of x. Same type of thing, we're going to take 2x minus 30, set it equal to 60. We're going to solve for x. X is 45 degrees. Angle BAC measures 100 degrees. Identify at least 3 things that you know about the measures of angles BAD and angle DAC without measuring them. Hopefully in looking at them, you'll be able to tell me that the measure of angle BAD is less than 100 degrees because it's part of angle BAC, and the same thing for angle DAC. It's also less than 100 degrees because it also is part of angle BAC. And then hopefully you figured out that when you add those 2 angles together, they equal 100 degrees. 2 angles are adjacent if they share a vertex and a side, but no interior points in common. On the left side, angle AOB and angle BOC are adjacent. If you look at the way the angles are identified, both the middle letters are O, meaning they both have the same vertex. Those 2 angles are adjacent. They share a side. They share side OB. On the right, angle AOB and angle COD are not adjacent. They share the vertex, the letter O. However, they do not share a side. I'm going to have you pause it right here, answer these 4 questions, and we'll come right back and see how you did. Name an angle adjacent to angle FAD. That would be angle DAB. Name 2 angles adjacent to angle BGC. That would be angles DGB as well as angle EGH. Name 2 angles adjacent to angle CEH. That would be angles BEC and angle GEH. Name 2 angles adjacent to angle ABC. There's 6 listed there. Hopefully you got 2 of those 6. Which angles are adjacent to angle EOD? Adjacent to angle EOD are angles AOE, angle DOC, and angle DOB because they all share a ray and a vertex with angle EOD. The measure of angle PRS is 80 degrees. What is the measure of X? Solve for X. You know that the 2 of those angles together equal 80 degrees. Subtract 25 from both sides, and you have your answer. The measure of ABC. Angle ABC is 100 degrees. What's the value of X? 2-step equation. Set that equal to 100 degrees. Subtract 60 from both sides. That leaves you with 2x equals 40. Divide both sides by 2. X is equal to 20 degrees. Third section, complementary angles. 2 angles are complementary if their sum is 90 degrees. Together they form a right angle. On the right side, please make a note. 2 angles can still be complementary even if they are not adjacent, as long as they add up to be 90 degrees. Draw an adjacent complement for each angle. What is the measure of each complement? Angle A is 80 degrees. The complement to that would be whatever angle it takes to add up to be 90 degrees. That would be 10 degrees. Angle B is 30 degrees. A complement to a 30-degree angle would be the difference between 30 and 90, which would be 60 degrees. Angle C, 45 degrees. Another 45-degree angle will take that to 90 degrees and make them complementary. Name 2 angles that are not complementary. The 2 angles that are both 15 degrees are not complementary. They do not add up to be 90 degrees. The 2 angles that are both 75 degrees, they also are not complementary because they do not add up to be 90 degrees. Is it true that all complementary angles must be acute? Acute meaning less than 90 degrees. Yes. If 2 angles are complementary, then the sum of their measures is 90 degrees. So the measure of each of those 2 angles must be less than 90 degrees. Angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary. The measure of angle 1 is 24 degrees. The measure of angle 2 is 3x. What is the value of x? Set those two on the right side, set them both equal to 90 degrees, solve for x equals 22. If you need to, stop this now and go back through that. Make sure you understand the algebra involved there. What is the value of x? Again, these two angles add up to be 90 degrees. This is a little easier. You just have to do a subtraction problem to get the value of x. Section 4, supplementary angles. Hockey players want the blades of their sticks to lie flat on the ice. If this player holds his hockey stick to the ice at a 45-degree angle, at what lie angle should his stick be? Explain how you know. Two angles are supplementary if their sum is 180 degrees. Like the picture on the left, two 90-degree angles form a straight line. They form supplementary angles. On the right, again, same type of note. Two angles can still be supplementary even if they are not adjacent, as long as they add up to be 180 degrees. Draw an adjacent supplement for each angle. What is the measure of each supplement? Example A. The angle is 50 degrees. To write a supplement to that would be 180 less 50, or 130 degrees. Example B. The angle is 165 degrees. As a supplement, 180 less 165 would have to equal 15 degrees. Example C. A right angle. A supplement to a right angle would be another right angle, because two right angles equal 180 degrees. Suppose angle ABC measured 48 4/10. Find the measure of its supplement. 180 degrees less 48 4/10 leaves us with a supplement of 131 6/10. What is the value of x? 4x plus 74 equals 180 degrees. We solve for x. X equals 26 5/10. Section 5 is on vertical angles. Vertical angles are formed by two intersecting lines and they are opposite each other. Vertical angles have equal measures. They are congruent. 1 and 3 are congruent. Angles 2 and 4 are congruent. Name the angle pairs that are vertical. Vertical angles. Stop this for a minute, take a look at these and see what you come up with. Alright, there's actually only two pairs of vertical angles here. Angles 7 and 8 are vertical angles. They're formed by two intersecting lines. They face each other. Angles 5 and 6 are vertical angles, formed by two intersecting lines. They face each other. Name the angle that is vertical to angle ABC. So find it, angle ABC, look at what other angle is formed by the same two lines. The answer to that would be angle RBW. What is the value of x? 140 equals 4x plus 40. We know they're equal because they are vertical angles. We set one equal to the other. The value of x is 25 degrees. If you're not sure about that, stop it and go through that. Answer the following questions using the angles letters. Name a pair of adjacent angles, complementary, supplementary, vertical, and if the measure of angle XCY is 41 degrees, what is the measure of angle WCX? Answer these. Make sure you have completed your guided notes. Make sure you study your vocabulary words because you have a quiz and a test covering all of this geometry.